Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in to ConLost Productions, ConLostPro. Today we've got with us...
Connor, I do believe.
Jacob, as Jacob.
Breton Hamilton.
And Will.
Excellent.
Will Craft.
No,
Warcraft.
Warcraft.
Will the Will Craft.
Yes, so today we're here to talk about... it kind of came up in discussion a few days ago. How have games created and destroyed other industries and jobs? Part of this kind of came about through that we had a very fascinating conversation with someone who came into our school the other day by the name of Mike. David Z. Zed. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his last name, but we'll have a link to his Twitter down in the Doobly-Do. But yes, today we're talking about how games create and destroy industries and jobs. So first off, I figure we'll start with the easy one. What industries or jobs have been created by the game industry growing as it has today? The first thing that comes to mind for me is, Let's Players, the Twitch crowd, that whole streamers, as well as Major League Gaming.
And it almost came out of nowhere and is incredibly highly lucrative indeed. I think if you look at this whole YouTube phenomenon, PewDiePie just started playing games. He just play games. He's making almost millions of dollars and is the number one sort of person most viewed on YouTube.
Yeah, he's the current king of YouTube. He has the number one most subscribers.
Yeah,
second only by Jenna Marbles.
Yeah, and he's just playing games. He's not doing anything special. It's just, he's just doing that. It's cool.
And it's an interesting concept as well when you think about he's an individual doing this as well. He's not an organisation or a team. This is a man who went and played games, posted his Let's Plays with his reactions, and made millions from it somehow. I was going to say opposed to a team like possibly the Rooster Teeth team, who were kind of this around pre-Machinima and pre-Let's Play. They kind of defined
pre-YouTube.
Pre-YouTube. They hosted their own videos originally, but a dynamic team that had the hindsight to actually go and take the YouTube name Let's Play way in advance before anyone else had taken it, and didn't use it for 3 years.
Yeah.
Very interesting. But that's also another kind of business avenue or market where it's like, here's something, an industry that's been created by games and a company that's become a mecca because they produce their content, they publish their own content, they distribute their own content.
Absolutely. And I see, even there's a bunch of animators and other YouTubers who have since kind of become just full-time Let's Players. Like, I think Ego Raptor from Game Grumps, his channel used to be devoted to, like, on Newgrounds, solely to animations, but now he's gone pretty much straight into just full-time Let's Plays because that's where there's more money. Like, realistically, yes,
this
on
is
YouTube
true,
anyway.
Not to mention the merchandising and just the general meta around that as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, and then that gets into Major League Gaming because that's legitimately become an e-sport. Like, that's an internationally acknowledged sport these days.
I think a fellow was literally named an athlete from playing League of Legends, I do believe, or StarCraft.
Yeah, you can get visas into countries now, into America, mostly, just to play League of Legends or StarCraft. Like, I know in the past it's been difficult, but now they're actually accepting it. And it's really incredible.
Yeah. Well, and I think that speaks a lot because, in Illinois, the Robert Morris University is the first college in the United States to accept esports, so specifically League of Legends, as like an academic scholarship. Thank you. Yes.
It's good because games need that kind of recognition because when we're talking about things like Twitch shooters and strategy games and such. It is a sport. It's something that does require a large amount of skill to build up into it, and it's something that is a form of entertainment that is widely enjoyed by a crowd of people.
Absolutely, and I don't think those jobs would be there by any stretch of the imagination were it not for the game industry. Like, that is just the most immediate thing that comes to mind is the creation of jobs.
Even just extending the roles of other jobs as well. Like, I've got friends that do photography for esports teams. They go to the esports events and they are the photographer to go and shoot that.
Yeah. 10 years ago, that was unfathomable.
Yeah.
That would even be a thing.
Yeah.
So you're going to hire me to take photos of people playing games?
Deal.
Oh, let's do that. Let's do that now.
Like, every single adult that I spoke to when I was younger, they were asking me like, "Oh, what do you want to do when you grow up?" I was like, "I want to be a game designer. I want to develop games." And they're like, "You can't make money off that."
Mm-hmm.
Be a doctor.
You can't make money off that.
Well,
Wait,
and
yes,
then
you can.
and then so outside of the specific industries that have kind of grown out of it simply through playing games, I think there's definitely a lot to be said about like the education and simulation side of things, because that has become its own mass market. And in a lot of ways, a lot of people are kind of heralding games as kind of the future of education.
Yeah, I mean, we look at Minecraft actually being taught in some schools now. There is actually a version of Minecraft released for teachers, referred to as Minecraft EDU. And, I mean, you can get your students to actually sit and network collaboratively and produce things based on architecture or history or whatever subject you want them to engage in. I mean, it's fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, in fact, there is a class called ClassCraft, and I believe it's in, I want to say New York, but I'd have to double check. We'll have links down in the Doobly-Do. But ClassCraft it's a high school teacher who wanted to think of a way to engage with his class in a more intuitive way that gets them to work together and to problem solve, as well as to motivate them in class. The whole idea being, how can we make the classroom more like an adventure? And I think there's definitely so much to be said for that.
Oh, very interesting as well. I mean, the way that game was instigated as well was there were real-world ramifications to it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were pick the mage class within ClassCraft, you were allowed to be 2 minutes late to class.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a dawdler, you pick yourself as a mage, and all of a sudden it's okay for you to be there 2 minutes late. Oh, the mage is here, that's fine. And
Mage always arrives precisely when he means to.
and the warrior was allowed to eat in class.
Yes, was allowed to eat in class. And so these are things that, like, intrinsically, there are several students who would just kind of like to have that nice little added benefit of just, oh, hooray, it's time for so-and-so's class. Because not only do I get to eat in there, do this, listen to my iPod in here because I'm X class, but also the entire classroom structure is set up in a cooperative way.
Yeah. You want to elaborate on that, on the team-based system?
Yes. So the way it seems to work is, so in ClassCraft, the idea is that you form into pods or little like parties of other individuals within the class, and the idea is that through taking tests or bullying or being useful to your teammates, whatnot, you have hit points or health that raises and lowers and whatnot. And so basically the idea is that everyone is working together to try to keep everyone else on their team above death or 0 hit points.
Which I guess would be flunking class.
Which would be flunking class, exactly. And I even know there are several schools, like several colleges and high schools, that are looking into the gamification of kind of higher academia. So preparing people for real world things. Making, instead of doing like A, B, C, like grade systems, instead they're doing more, you start at level 1. By the end of the term, you must be this level in order to pass. And so you're just kind of getting experience kind of thing. So they're just kind of changing the way that works.
I love that because, I mean, there's a lot of us that are workaholics, specifically at this table.
Yes.
And if there was no cap on the marks that I could achieve, I'd be way more motivated to do extra work. I like that reward system. I was addicted to like little merits and stuff at school. I was like, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Give me the little piece of paper.
Yeah.
That sounds great. Look, I got a merit. Great. I'm going to beat you up for it. All right.
Banana stickers.
Banana stickers.
That was actually something my primary school did. Is you would get a certain amount of merits, and at the end of the month, when like they tallied up all the merits you got, and if you had 5, you could spend them and go to this sort of lunch thing where they would get like a caterer and they would get a whole bunch of free food if you had 5 of these merits.
Fancy ass shit in elementary school.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah,
and like everybody wanted to do it.
Yeah,
I remember. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, there's no doubt about that totally changed classroom behavior.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god. Where was your school?
Blackheath Public.
Good. Props to Blackheath Public.
Yeah. That was actually a very specific teacher who isn't there anymore. But he was very good.
Yeah. Well, and then the other side of this, that's an excellent point. On the other side of this, we were kind of talking a little bit earlier how there's not a single pilot today that has their job or is able to even fly a plane before they've flown a dozen flight simulators, like in the military and whatnot. And so there's a massive market for just simulation games.
Yeah. And there's also a push as well to make these simulations as realistic and lifelike as possible. I think I've seen incredibly sophisticated, amazing machines that are literally just the front end of a plane, and the world itself is just built in, well, is highly detailed sort of world, or even Google Maps, that sort of stuff. And I think there was a while ago, I did see a while ago, there was an attempt to actually connect these simulations to each other, so they could actually, so say if you're a fighter pilot, you could literally have a dogfight with your best friend and not destroy millions of dollars worth of jets or whatever. And it'd be a perfect way of them sort of learning exactly, like, almost real-world experience. It's quite amazing what sort of stuff they can do with it.
I mean, that's interesting, because we're talking about that's almost augmenting a job, but all of a sudden we don't need the instructors as much for it anymore.
Yeah.
So it also doesn't destroy the job at all, because I think it's a highly specialized role we're talking about, someone who's a fighter, pilot, educator. But in saying that, it has also probably reduce the need for those people. I mean,
and I think we'll touch a little bit more on that when we get to game or industries that the game industry has destroyed. But kind of we've been kind of talking about the idea of gamification, and what comes to mind is there's
Can
no
you explain
doubt.
that? Yes. When you first said it, I was like, gamification.
Yeah.
Excuse
me. Gamification is the process of applying game-like systems, so problem solving, a clear goal.
So even point systems.
To a non-game kind of system. And so what comes to mind is there's no doubt in my pocket, if any of you guys right now were to reach into your wallet, there's no doubt you'd be able to find like membership cards to grocery stores or to Starbucks or coffee shops or whatever have you. There's no doubt in my mind that you guys have some membership cards for those that reward you points for shopping there and give you special deals on your birthday and so on and so forth. And those were specifically designed so that you have a reason to come back. Thus, kind of getting that psychological, that becoming just part of your daily routine.
Yeah, and on the other end of that, they can actually track exactly what you're buying, and hence they can get that information and use it on their metrics, so they can even send you promotions for stuff you are most likely to buy.
It's true. You're just gaining further analytics also by creating a game system, because you're putting them in a system which you collect data.
Did you guys hear about the whole Target thing? There was a big kind of fiasco about Target.
I think this the systems work so utterly well that I think a woman, a teenage girl, was getting stuff for baby products. So she was getting just sort of old catalogs and all that sort of stuff. And it turns out Target knew she was pregnant before she did.
Oh,
yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
No,
I did actually hear about that, yes.
Yeah. Where suddenly she was craving different foods, and just by using the Target card every time she went into Target, the system tracked and was then specifically emailing her ads to give her discounts and stuff, more reason to return to the store. And so that's how her parents found. I think she was underage or something. But that's how it was found out, because those algorithms are specifically designed to use that information that is collected.
That's really interesting. I mean, I don't want to digress here, and we can put us straight back on topic straight away.
Yeah.
But I would like to talk on another time, is that invasion of privacy.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting topic.
Yeah, and also, I've just kind of had this revelation right now that, these stores like these big brands, like Kohl's and Target and stuff, they've been doing the free-to-play sort of...
Yeah, they have.
They've been doing the free-to-play games before free-to-play games.
Yep, very much so.
They keep you coming back, and they give you microtransactions. You spend more money here, you'll get more rewards.
Yes.
That's to say now, was it chicken or egg?
Oh,
Who thought of it?
Fascinating topic for another time.
Yeah.
But I even look at like Fitbit, and like on my phone, one of my favorite apps is not necessarily a game, but it's something that just tracks the number of steps that I take per day, and it tells me, how much of that time was spent running, how much of that time was spent jogging, how much of that was walking uphill. And so that has actually changed my route in which I walk to get to the bus every day, just because that's just become a natural thing.
Okay, guys, a Fitbit specifically is a pedometer that gives you basically small goal systems. I think that's the big difference there, where with a Fitbit, it's got an achievement system within it.
Yeah.
And I think that's something very different to just a normal pedometer or a normal thing that tracks systems and gives you analytics.
Yeah.
Analytics are different to a game because the game or the pedometer itself, like the Fitbit, creates, gives you an internal goal set, gives you an internal direction in which to take. It does path you in some fashion.
Or hell, even you look at Wii Fit. My grandma lost 40 pounds over the course of a year and a half doing Wii Fit, and that was just every day. She'd go on for a little bit, and it'd give her new challenges, and it'd constantly be updating her on how she's doing and all that kind of stuff. And that's gamification, in the truest sense of the word. And so that's definitely a job industry that's come out of.
Interesting. Actually, extension of that. I know at St. Vincent's Hospital over in the rehabilitation ward, they use Wii's, and they specifically call it rehabilitation. But there's I don't think that's necessarily created an industry, but it has created a very unique job system, because now you need a physiotherapist that also is familiar with Wii and the programs that occur with Wii, because it's very, very useful. Actually, I'm going to get an outside consult on this. We've brought in our St. Vincent's consult here.
Hello, it's Yaz.
Yes.
I apparently am keeper of all knowledge.
Do you want to tell us more about? We're specifically talking about gamification today and jobs created as an offshoot from the video game industry. So, and we brought up the topic of within rehabilitation. At St. Vincent's Hospital, the Wii has been instigated as rehabilitation.
Yes, I'm not sure if it's just St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, but we definitely have a program where we use the Nintendo Wii with a program called Rehabilitation, essentially for patients who have had strokes or amputations or anything that results in a deficit of usually upper limb or just any mobility problem. And they can use the Wii sitting down, which is one of the great things about it, so they don't need to actually be able to stand up. They can use the balance board if they've got a bit more mobility, and things that people wouldn't normally assume would be a benefit of a video game has come out in a way that actually brings quite a lot of capacity to some people's lives. And they can, for instance, if they were really big on golfing and have lost the use of one limb, they can still play golf on the Wii. So it kind of brings them a bit more joy and a bit more of a reason to continue with their rehab. And a lot of universities are picking this up as a research tool, and they're looking into the benefit of it. So it's definitely an emerging thing, and you can justify buying it in rehab centres or at home. And that's part of the research that they're doing at the University of New South Wales, is giving people the Wii to take home to actually practice their rehab instead of having to go out to a therapy gym.
Yeah, I think that's excellent. And I think just that also comes with the people making the software to kind of work with the Wii Fit and all the, or with the Wii U, Wii, and all the various products that come out of that as well.
I mean, that's true. I mean, that's probably maybe a version of... Thank you very much. Yes.
All right, I'm being told to go.
No, it's all good.
No, you can stick around.
You can stick around if you like. Yeah. Sure. That's also probably a kind of game development or software development we probably haven't seen as much. It's obvious games, obviously simulation, but specifically programs developed for rehabilitation. I think maybe is a market I don't know much about. I don't know.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something that I would love to cover in an episode that just talks about gamification.
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Yes. So kind of moving on, I know we also wanted to talk about, industries and jobs that have been kind of killed by the creation of the job, or with the creation of the game industry. And so I know we talked a lot earlier about kind of this self-cannibalization process of how games, in a way, modern games have wiped out the sense of arcades, and how those have slowly been making kind of a niche resurgence. Same to be had with like roguelikes, indie development in general. You guys want to elaborate on any of that?
Will was talking a lot about roguelikes before. Do you want to elaborate on that?
Jeez.
Or in general?
Zoned out for a second. Yeah. Well, what specifically? Sorry.
That's right. All right. Well, let's maybe just jump into arcades then.
Yep.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that's right.
We can go back to roguelites.
Okay. So we're talking about the game industry has cannibalized probably one of the things that would have been considered what a game heart and soul is, which was the arcade. That's where you originally engaged with your games, and because of the emergence of consoles and PC gaming coming so far, we no longer needed to actually go out to somewhere and drop all our change into it and wait for turns. And it just kind of got better because it became privatized after that.
Absolutely, and I think kind of building on top of that, this idea of self-cannibalization. We had our talk the other day with David Zed, and he was kind of talking about how Disney, a long while back, probably about 5-10 years ago, probably closer to 5, Disney, a lot of big animation studios basically said, okay, the 2D their movie development is dying, like it's done. We're going to close down our 2D side and focus on 3D. And you'll notice for a time, a lot of 2D development, with the exception of like Studio Ghibli and so on and so forth, really did focus on 3D films, or at least modeled. And so, but you'll notice now with The Frog Princess and a few other films, that 2D is kind of making a comeback.
Actually, this is a piece of information you told me. There was all those posts on Facebook not long ago about Ghibli shutting down. They were actually. Do you want to elaborate what the actual story was of that?
Oh yeah. There's a lot of rumors that Studio Ghibli, the people who brought you like Spirited Away, Howl's Moving Castle, wonderful films, apparently was shutting down. But no, in actual fact, they're not exactly shutting down, but going back to what they were originally, which was a studio that got in animators, very famous animators from other companies, got them in to do a collaboration project. And it's like
sounds way more exciting for me.
They're just going back to their roots, bringing out very few movies, or just working on projects over a long time with very good people who are good at what they're doing, and just having fun with it, I guess.
So less of a corporate structure and more of just a community of just really cool animated professionals that know what they're doing.
An artistic collective commons.
They're going back to becoming a creative collective.
Well, I think that directly ties in with kind of this idea of self-cannibalization and kind of indie development these days. Because, I look at the industry, and for a while, AAA dominated the market. Like, there weren't indie games. Not until about March and Notch, Kickstarter, all this crowdfunding thing, the idea of free-to-play, so on and so forth, really kind of ballooned out and now has kind of brought back with it this massive tide of indie development that for the longest time had been dead. Like, the game industry started in the garage, and now it's back. But it's back in a new form.
Well, that's
the Neo Garage.
I mean, David talked about that with us as well, about the reality of being able to cut out the middleman with crowdsourced funding. We can talk directly to the consumer now and say, what do you want? Here's what I'm working on. Here are my ideas. Do you like them? No, you don't. Oh, all right, well, don't fund it then.
But I like the idea of ones that you've told me about where if someone does contribute, if someone does give something towards the Kickstarter, one of the things that they could get in return is a character named after them or modelled after them.
Yeah.
I really like that interactive component.
Yes, there's a game that's just recently kickstarted, like just the other day, an Australian game, I believe a team from Brisbane. It's called Ninja Pizza Girl. It is like a 2.5D style game. So it's a platformer done with 3D models but taken from an orthographic view. And Ninja Pizza Girl apparently it's a family team where it's a husband and wife team and their daughter works on it as well. The game was inspired specifically from their daughter's adventures of training in the martial arts and also being a pizza delivery girl. I love the game. And part of what they were offering was if you put in enough, kickstarted enough money, they would literally model you or your character and stick them in the game as a playable character. If you gave them a less amount, they'd all right, graffiti your name. We will stick it in the background.
Mm-hmm.
You can be in it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Wasteland, one of the very first games, Wasteland 2 actually. One of the very first games to be kickstarted was doing a lot of stuff like that. Like if you pledged, over $1,000, your name wouldn't just be in the credits, but in fact, you would have a character, and that character would be a part of the game. And in some of the very first demos, they showed off like this is this person.
Well, and I think this all kind of goes towards, the game industry has ballooned out to be such a massive, just a massive animal at this point, where the amount of revenue that the game industry makes on an annual basis vastly trumps the game industry, or the music industry and the film industry combined. Like, it is such a massive industry. And this kind of brings, while I don't see the game industry ever destroying film or music.
Yeah, it's almost like radio killed the radio killed the video stars? Yeah. There was fears that...
All the way around.
I don't know.
Video
there was
killed
massive...
the radios. No? Okay.
That's not.
That's not.
Yeah, there was massive fears about that, and it pretty much eventuated to nothing.
They help each other out. They're never gonna die because they don't directly affect each other. It's sort of almost symbiotic.
In saying that, can I just put this out there and everyone answer at once?
Mm-hmm.
When you hear mobile gaming, what device do you think of? Go.
Apple.
So Apple?
Yeah, well, iPhone.
Yep.
iPod. Or iPad.
Yep.
Yep, let's go Android.
Yep.
iPad.
I always think Game Boy.
Oh.
That's what always goes into my
You
head.
said mobile gaming.
Yeah.
It's mobile.
It is, but yeah.
Shut your face.
Mobile is mobile. That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
And unfortunately, there's a lot smaller market for like Nintendo's mobile products when you have so much of it. What would you pay for Pokemon on your iPhone?
The same amount I would pay for Pokemon on my 3DS.
Yep. Would you buy a 3DS though?
Yes.
Yeah.
For Pokemon. Yes.
Yeah.
I am invested though.
He's a nerd.
Wrong person to ask.
Yeah, I know. But if they offered it on a mobile, if they offered it on your Apple device, and on the 3DS, would you go buy a 3DS, or would you just play it on your Apple device?
I would play it on my Apple device.
Yeah.
I would play it on if they offered it on my phone, then I would certainly go for that because I have my phone with me all the time and it saves me carrying around a second device.
So my theory here may be a stretch, but I feel like what keeps Nintendo's mobile consoles in the game is exclusivity of titles. If they didn't have that,
absolutely.
then the mobile phone, the app, the iOS store and the App Store, the App Store and the Android App Store, whatever they're called, Play Store would completely cannibalize Nintendo's mobile device market.
Well, and I think one of the questions that we briefly touched on was, does the game revenue detract from the film's growth? So I think in a way the most game revenue, like, it peaked in 2008 was when we officially kind of like blew way over the film industry. And I see that was also about the time that the mobile game industry kind of made a massive boom. Like, that's when people realized, shit, people are actually just spending time on their phone, just playing games at bus stops and literally everywhere. That's where we saw the biggest boom of that, Angry Birds, so on and so forth. And so I think since then, the game industry is most of the growth in the game industry. While games are more expensive and they're getting a lot more sales, I think the most growth has come from mobile development, which I don't think detracts in any way from film growth.
Especially if film can capitalize on it. I mean, aren't we getting... we saw a lot in China and Asia in general, Angry Birds merchandise and TV shows and such, which, I mean, that's direct capitalization of TV going off the back of the popularity of the
Yeah,
well,
that's right. There
we've
was
seen-
an entire animated series for the Angry Birds,
Yep.
as well as...
Angry Birds Star Wars.
Oh my god, yes. They got so many subsidiary brands getting in on the bandwagon for Angry Birds. It was amazing.
On a similar subject, we're seeing more and more game movies being made.
Yeah.
The World of Warcraft movie is the prime example right now. It is... Yeah, it's like one of the biggest games is becoming a huge movie.
Yep.
And that's why I believe it's symbiotic.
Yep.
One can survive without the other, but they benefit from each other both existing.
Yeah.
One might be doing better than the other, but it doesn't mean that one is going to destroy the other.
Yeah.
I just... Continue, sorry.
It's the same it's the same with books and movies. Books and movies. Books and TV.
Yeah.
Books will always exist because people prefer. There is always the niche that people prefer, like reading. People prefer imagining the story themselves. Whereas, like Game of Thrones, I know a lot of people who would read the books and won't touch the TV series because they're just like, it'll ruin how the characters look, like how the characters are in my head.
So okay, you know what? That is actually a very good point. I had not thought of that. That absolutely is a symbiotic relationship. Kind of on top of that, I know earlier we briefly kind of touched on, specifically simulation and how the education industry to some degree has been lost. Like those traditional old-fashioned like pilot and military trainers have since kind of lost their necessity now that we have computer games.
Yeah, they're literally only being hired as just people who
Consults.
Almost operators.
Yeah, they're consults. Yeah,
operators and consults.
they get brought in and say, "Does this look good? Good. All right, bye."
But I don't think that, like, yes, that has destroyed kind of that role, or at least changed it so it's unrecognizable.
Very small role, though.
But it is such a small role.
In saying that, does anyone's individual tiny job matter less than something else? That's another topic, but
Yeah. And so I think we're kind of coming to the close of our conversation here. We would absolutely love to hear if you have any thoughts on what other industries that maybe we didn't mention that have been created and or destroyed by the game industry coming into growth.
I certainly had a hard time thinking of anything that was actually ruined by games. Like,
Yeah.
I can't think of many things, but maybe I'm just
Yeah, I think we're all pretty much biased. We've all sort of grown up in game industry and work in it, so it'd be cool just to see what everyone else is sort of.
Absolutely.
we also have racked our brains trying to think of industries that have been ruined by games. So please input if you can think of one.
Absolutely.
I can only think of things that have been created. Like I said this earlier, kind of like the game industry and other industries can't improve unless the self-cannibalization occurs.
Yes.
Like if they don't start, like if genres that appear and are dominant don't leave the spotlight, then how can they go forward?
That's true. So creativity comes from the
Competition.
Oh yeah, and
Competition within themselves.
Yep.
Like how will Call of Duty, first-person shooters, how will a first-person shooter ever innovate if it's not knocked out? How will they grab their audience back from whatever they are unless they innovate?
Okay.
Unless they're knocked off their pedestal.
So on that note, thank you everyone for tuning in to ConLost Productions. There are links down to the Doobly-Do to some of the things we talked about today. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let us know what you think. If there's anything you can add, let me know or let us know. This has been Brett Hamilton signing off.
Jacob Kiright.
Yep, Connor Warburton.
Yasmin Lupus.
Will Craft.
Lupus, really? All right.
It means wolf. In
I know, that's cool. Anyway, thanks everybody. Catch you around. Bye, guys.
Bye.